Wars rarely start with the intention of becoming world wars, but history shows how quickly conflicts spiral out of control. In 1914, a single assassination triggered World War I. Today, a regional war in the Middle East is raising the same question. Could this conflict ignite World War III? The war between Iran, Israel, and Western forces has already begun reshaping the region. Missile strikes, naval confrontations, and proxy attacks are spreading across the Middle East. What began as a regional conflict is now testing the limits of global alliances. The conflict is not isolated. Iran has attacked targets across the region. This includes American bases and allied nations within the reach of Tehran's arsenal. Each strike increases the risk that more countries could be pulled into the war. Iran is not alone. Across the Middle East, Tehran maintains a powerful network of allies and proxy forces. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen form what analysts call the axis of resistance. Together, they create a multi-front battlefield that stretches from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. On the other side stand the Western powers. Israel, backed by the United States and its NATO allies. They possess overwhelming military strength, supported by advanced missile defenses and air superiority. If these alliances activate fully, the conflict could escalate rapidly into a full-scale global confrontation. Russia is watching closely. Moscow has long maintained military cooperation with Iran. While Russia may avoid direct combat, intelligence sharing and diplomatic support could shift the balance of the war. Their involvement adds a layer of complexity that the West cannot ignore. China faces a different dilemma. Beijing depends heavily on Middle Eastern energy. A wider war could threaten the supply chains that power the world's second-largest economy. China may push for diplomacy, but it also prepares for a more unstable world order. The greatest escalation risk lies with NATO if Iran attacks a NATO member directly. The alliance could invoke Article 5, the principle of collective defense. That would turn a regional war into a confrontation between the world's major military powers. A global war today would look very different from the wars of the 20th century. Hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, satellites, and drones could transform the battlefield. Conflicts would span land, sea, air, and even the frontier of space. The economic impact could be immediate. The Middle East supplies a huge portion of the world's energy. Even limited disruptions have already pushed oil prices sharply higher across the globe. A wider war could send energy markets into absolute chaos, triggering a global recession. Global trade depends on stable shipping routes. If war spreads across key sea lanes, supply chains could break down entirely, factories would slow, and inflation would surge. The average consumer would feel the weight of a war thousands of miles away. There is another darker risk. Several nations involved in the conflict possess nuclear weapons. The United States, Russia, China, and Israel all maintain significant nuclear arsenals. These weapons deter war, but they also raise the stakes to unimaginable levels of destruction. Most global wars do not begin with nuclear weapons. They begin with miscalculations. A mistaken strike, a downed aircraft, a missile hitting the wrong target. History shows how quickly escalation can spiral out of human control. If the war expanded globally, the consequences would reshape the international system. Alliances could fracture, and new, more aggressive power blocks could emerge. The world order built after the Cold War might collapse entirely. Unlike past world wars, a modern conflict could last for decades. Economic warfare, cyber attacks, and regional proxy battles could replace traditional battlefields. The result would be a permanently unstable world, defined by constant conflict. For now, the conflict remains regional, but history reminds us that world wars rarely start as global. They begin with local crises that slowly pull the world into the storm. We are standing at the edge. The question is, can we step back? If you found this analysis important, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into global stability.